whatever.
Okay, here's my point. How long does Pettin last? I mean, being a yes man.
Pettin's not
obviously he didn't want to play Manziel. Somebody higher up sent the word down.
He proved himself right. So I don't know how long
but he's starting the next 3 games. Well, supposedly.
Well, he will. Manziel will start.
So does he grow a pair and say, "I'm not starting him. I'm going back to Hoyer," or does he?
No, you can't do that. You absolutely cannot do that, and that has nothing to do with Hoyer. That has nothing to do with that. That ship has sailed. You have to let this.
Okay. Do you run to Shaw then, or what?
No. Let this thing play itself out, and then what the Browns have to do,
what
they have to decide in the off season is how are we willing to do this? Because clearly you cannot go into next season. You definitely can't sell it to the fans that we're going to go into next season number 2 and some guy as the backup, man, because you're asking fans to sign up for a 4-12 season next year, man. I'm telling you.
No, I've already stated that they're gonna lose the last 3 and get 2 new quarterbacks next year.
See,
I don't see Manziel playing with these guys.
I'll tell you
that don't want to protect them.
That's fine, man. The kid coming out of college doesn't exactly have a lot of say so in who's going to do what for him, where, or whatever. A lot of what happened was easily predictable for anybody who saw this whole thing coming, and that is the truth of the matter. This kid did not just have a bad game because everybody set him up to fail. Maybe nobody helped him do any better, but there are reasons for all of this. And I'm sure that there's people, Bruce, you may be one of them, man. Maybe Johnny needs to get out of Cleveland as quickly as possible so he can go live up to his potential. Good luck with that.
I don't know about all that, but I know he needs to get out of here. I mean...
more power to it. Hey, man, you're talking to the guy who didn't want him brought here. And again,
the
kid can get better because you really can't get a whole lot worse than the way things started. But I will say this, for everybody who thinks that it's a foregone conclusion that Hoyer steps away, and I think he will because he feels disrespected by the way things went down, I don't. I think that if the end of this season continues to go the way it looks like it may for the last 2 games, I'm not talking about as
well, you got to remember now, they didn't take the job from him. He lost it.
I can see this happening again next year, my friend. Say what you want, but all I'm going to say is when you sit back and look at this season, everybody can complain about Brian Hoyer all you want. The portion of the season that he was involved in looks a whole lot better than the portion of the season that he wasn't involved in. And that is what the fans see, and that is what the players see as well. So unless you're going to replace 3/4 of this locker room, well, then you might have to replace your thought process.
Well, from what I've seen Sunday, I wouldn't have any problem releasing anybody. I mean, you play in Cleveland. You don't play in Cincinnati. You can be replaced and forgotten in a day.
Well, I disagree. I got to let you go, Bruce.
All righty. I'll talk to you later, J-Rock.
All right. Yeah, I'm not even going to go. I disagree. I absolutely disagree. The Browns roster is the strongest that it's been in the last decade, easily. They got a lot of holes to fill. Problem is we're comparing it to a hole that's so deep that it makes it a little different. But I'll tell you, I was talking to some buddies last night, and I'm going to talk to John McMullen here when we come back and get his thoughts on this. But, I could definitely see a situation where after things subside, especially once this season and the emotions of it cool away, I could totally see Mike Pettin stuck behind Brian Hoyer, and vice versa. And I could definitely see this thing coming back together next year. And whether it is a competition with the same quarterbacks that are here, whether there's another name thrown into the mix, I can see the Browns coming back with a very similar quarterback deck next year. I know there's a lot of people going, absolutely not. That's fine. But I can tell you that good teams, whether he's the starter or the backup, have a guy like Brian Hoyer in the quarterback rotation, man. And I think the Browns can appreciate the difference. You can say what you want about anybody else not playing, but the kid had trouble getting the right guys in the right place, running the right plays. And whatever Brian Hoyer did right or wrong, he had the guys in the right places running the right plays, at least at the time they snap the ball. Again, this is not a praise Brian Hoyer thing. This is not a bash Johnny Football thing. This is a open your eyes. Don't say what somebody else tells you. I know people need to go, man, I saw a guy on Twitter yesterday said, man, I bought 3 of these Manziel shirts, so he better end up being good. Yeah, there's a lot of people that feel that way. We're going to talk some more about that. Let's get John McMullen in on the conversation here. Coming up next, well, Bruce got us started. We'll talk Manziel, Browns, Bengals, Panthers coming up, NFL playoffs. John McMullen from the Sports Network joining us next. We'll keep the conversation rolling. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan still to come. Doug Plagens of the Lake Erie Monsters. Your calls and so much more. Don't go anywhere. I hear you, Larry. Like I said, we should have opened up the show an hour early so that the Manziel truck could get back to... Listen, I'm all about it, but my man... You can't make a single excuse for Brian Hoyer, but the entire world wants Johnny Manziel to fail. I don't understand it. I've never seen a celebrated guy hated on so bad. The whole world, hold that man down. We'll talk about that when we come back. John McMullen joins us next here on the Sports Fix.
Break it down. Hammer time. Every time you see me, the hammer's just so high.
The Sports Fix, the show that asks the question.
What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou?
We'll be right back.
Sports Fix listeners, you've heard me talking about it. Millionaires being made all season long at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site. I've been playing there too. It's now J-Rock's favorite one-week fantasy football site. What's one-week fantasy football? That means no season-long commitments. Play whenever you want. Have a player who's hurt? That's no problem at all because you change everything week to week. Injuries don't derail your chance at victory. It's a new season every week. You're never stuck with the same players. You can pick your team in just minutes and be on your way to winning huge cash. This season, one listener turned $10 into $5,000. Another turned $2 into $10,000. And a new millionaire has been crowned nearly every week this season at DraftKings.com. You could be next. Imagine winning $1 million in one day. $1 million just for playing fantasy football at DraftKings.com. Head to DraftKings.com now and use promo code Spreaker to play for free in the $10 million Fantasy Football World Championships. DraftKings.com. Bigger events, bigger winnings, bigger millionaires. Enter Spreaker now at DraftKings.com.
The Sports Fix is on iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeart app today. Subscribe to the show and get your fix.
You love Cleveland, and you already know how much we love Cleveland. You know who else loves Cleveland? GV Art and Design. Everyday fans, you and I wear our pride on our sleeves. Now, you can wear your pride on your chest. GV Art and Design has one of the hottest Cleveland sporting lines. Log on right now to gvartwork.com. Check out all of their fantastic designs.
And don't forget, use the sales code FIX10, FIX10 to save 10% on your total purchase.
Follow gvartwork.com on Facebook. And remember, GV Art and Design, it's not just a shirt, it's a statement.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
Now, back to the Sports Fix.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rock back with you guys, rolling on. Bruce set it up perfectly there. I got myself a headache. Man, I'll tell you what, we're reaching that point. Remember last year? We reached that point where you just said, you know what? I'm looking forward to 6 months without hearing the words Wheaton or Hoyer or Campbell or any of them. And I'm reaching that point again, man. I'm telling you, every time we say the word Johnny Football, an angel somewhere loses its wings. I'm just positive at this point, man. Headache-inducing, and it's only just begun. It's going to get more fun here. The conversation, I should say, over the next couple of weeks. I am looking forward to my next guest here, John McMullen from the Sports Network, as we are now post-Johnny debut, and we'll see what John has to say about that. John's usually with us on Mondays. He's here with us today as he wasn't able to be with us the other day. You guys can keep the conversation going and be with us on Facebook and Twitter. I know I missed some calls during the last segment. I'm up against it here with the format. I'm going to open the phones back up later. 216-539-7535 when they're open. Use Facebook and Twitter for now. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Email us, TheSportsFix@AOL.com. I want to see if John McMullen's in on the worldwide conspiracy against Johnny Manziel. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. And I keep saying that. I'm not actually using that as a euphemism. That is actually the title of it's the New York Post, but it's the actual title of an article that they put out yesterday. How the Cleveland Browns sabotaged Johnny Manziel. So I didn't make that up. I'll post it on our Facebook pages when we come back here. I'm going to the phones now. Let's get John McMullen on the phones. John McMullen, of course, from the Sports Network, and here with us every week talking NFL. And this week is no better to talk NFL in Cleveland than this week here in Johnny Football. John McMullen, how you doing here, my man?
Doing well, Jerry. Kind of laughing at that headline, but
did you see it?
I don't know how anyone could say they sabotaged.
Did you
Johnny
see it?
Manziel, but
it's from the New York Post.
No, I didn't see it. I'm kind of shaking my head.
Bart Hubbock is the guy's name. It's called "How the Browns Sabotaged Johnny Manziel's First Start," and it's a New York Post.
I don't know how you twist yourself in a pretzel because I've been saying it since July. The only one who sabotaged Johnny Manziel is Johnny Manziel, and the stark reality is not probably at this point. We were talking about probably last week in hindsight. It's no longer probably. You're talking about a kid who didn't deserve to start an NFL game at this point, and the Browns bent over backward because they're hopeful and desirous and almost blindly begging for him to succeed and take over that organization. So, like I said, I don't know how you twist yourself into that type of pretzel, but for whatever reason, there's a lot of apologists out there, and he's a very popular player. We talk about it all the time. I couldn't have imagined a worse debut in bizarro world. I didn't think it would be that bad, but it was. And it's time to look in the mirror, and that's the Browns' only hope now, is that it was a wake-up call to them.
You know what? Let me jump in there because, everybody colors the arguments with their own biases and all that, and that's why I love having guys like you, neutral guys here, that I wanted to talk about exactly kind of what you just said here because you saw it. Everybody, it's everybody can point to great quarterbacks who had a bad first game. There's a handful of Hall of Famers who had a terrible first game. I absolutely understand that. But I believe in a thing called the eye test, and I believe all of us saw what we saw. While there are, of course,